Hello students, welcome back to my channel. This is Dr. Sumed. In this video, I will talk about human blood. So, blood can be taken as the connective tissue. It is composed of cells and plasma. So, there are cellular component and there is a plasma component. Plasma is the fluid which is going through the whole in our whole cellular system. So, when you talk about the cellular component, there are mainly three types of cells: red blood cells, white blood cells, and platelets. These cells develop from the bone marrow. So we can see the bone marrow in the ribs, vertebra, sternum, and pelvis. Erythropoietin. Erythropoietin, which is formed in kidneys, stimulate the generation of the red blood cells. When you talk about red blood cells, the other word for the erythrocyte, red blood cells, the other word is erythrocyte. Otherwise, shortly we will say it RBC. So red blood cells are biconcave disc-like shape. The red blood cells or erythrocyte get mature, they will lack their nuclei. This will help them to carry more hemoglobin molecules within the cell. The main function of the red blood cell is to transport oxygen, no? So they need more hemoglobin. So because the nucleus is not there, it will help red blood cells to increase the hemoglobin concentration. Also, there are lack of mitochondria, so they have to produce ATP via anaerobic respiration. Otherwise, they will use the oxygen at the RBC itself. The lifespan of the red blood cells is 120 days. That is a normal lifespan. If you take 1 microliter of blood, it will contain 4 to 6 million red blood cells. This will depend on the situation of the health of the person. If this red blood cells number is reduced, you call it anemia. And another important point in the red blood cells, sickle cell anemia. The biconcave disc-like shape of the red blood cells will distorted in the sickle cell anemia. There you have the sickling of the cells. The normal biconcave shape is there, but not in the sickle cell anemia. Also, the major function of the uh, red blood cells is to transport oxygen molecule, but it also transport the carbon dioxide also. When we talk about white blood cells, otherwise you call them as leukocyte, shortly WBC, there are 5 types of WBCs. These are basophils, lymphocyte, eosinophil, neutrophil, and monocyte. The main function of leukocytes are the body defense. This is done by phagocyte engulfing and digestion of microorganisms. If we take lymphocyte, as we know in the immunity lessons, as we discussed in the previous video, there are 2 types of lymphocyte: T lymphocyte and B lymphocyte. These are increase the immune response against the foreign substance. Neutrophil mainly doing the defense by phagocytosis. When we talk about platelet, platelets are derived from bone marrow also. So they don't have nuclei and they are play a major role in blood clotting. When we talk about the plasma normally it is consists of 55% of blood. That is the fluid content of the blood. The blood plasma consists of inorganic ions in dissolved form, plasma proteins like albumin, antibody, and fibrinogen, nutrients, metabolic waste, respiratory gas like carbon dioxide and oxygen, and different types of hormones. So the pH of the blood, that is the pH of the plasma, is around 7.4. So it's mildly basic. So normally 7 is the neutral value, 7.4 is somewhat basic. The protein concentration of plasma is higher than in the interstitial fluid. Interstitial fluid is the fluid between the tissues, that is interstitial fluid, and the protein concentration of the plasma is higher than that of the interstitial fluid. And the dissolved ion in the plasma will buffer and maintain the osmotic balance in the blood. And we consider the albumin also buffer the blood. Antibody will act as a defense mechanism. And if you take the fibrinogen, that protein will aids in the blood clotting by converting it into fibrin. When the clotting factor is removed from the plasma, it is called as a serum. So now we are going to talk about major function of blood. The transport oxygen to the organs and removal of carbon dioxide from the organ and tissues is a major function. It is a major function of the blood. Transport oxygen to the organs, and also transport of soluble excretory materials to organs is the another function. And the other transportation is nutrient. Transport of hormone from the glands where they are produced to target organs is the also other problem. And defense against foreign invasion also there, and the blood also aids in osmoregulation. When we talk about the grouping of the blood grouping, so you call it ABO blood grouping system. So this is basically came with genetics. So antigen A and antigen B is a basic concept for giving rise the blood grouping. So as we learn in genetic lesson, there are three alleles, which is you call it I, B, and I, simple I. Those are the three alleles which is given right to the basic blood groups. The surface of the red blood cells, agglutinogen. There's a carbohydrate part called agglutinogen in the surface of the red blood cells. This is an antigen. This antigen can be antigen A or antigen B, and antibody in the plasma. So if the person is having antigen A in the red blood cells, that is agglutinogen A in the red blood cells, they will have antibody B, but not the antibody A. If they have antibody A, they will react with antigen and there will be cross reaction, and that blood will be clotted. So that thing won't happen. So normally in situation, the blood group A, they will have antigen A, antibody B in the plasma, and the genetic condition is A simple I or AA. If the blood group is B, antigen B is there in the red blood cells and antibody A is in the plasma, and the genetic condition is IBI or BB. And the blood group AB, it is antigen A, antigen B, both antigen they are in the red blood cells, and because of that both antigens are there, they don't have antibody. If the antibody is there, there will be a problem now. So the genetic condition is AB. If we take the blood group O, they don't have any antigen. No antigen A or antigen B. So they can have antibody A and antibody B in the plasma. And the genetic situation is II. That is no carbohydrate, that antigen. So according to the genetic situation and the antigen A and antibody, that antigen A, A, B and antibody, we can divide the four major blood group A, B, AB and O. And there's another thing called rhesus system. There's an antigen called rhesus factor on the plasma membrane. If the factor is there, you call it Rh positive, rhesus positive. If the factor is not there in the plasma membrane, it is Rh negative. So depending on the A blood group have rhesus positive or negative, we can divide the A group into A positive or A negative. B same as B positive, B negative, AB positive, AB negative, and O positive and O negative. If the Rh negative mother bears a rhesus positive child during the delivery, few rhesus positive blood can be going to mother's blood, and there may be formation of antibody to rhesus factor. This antibody in the mother's plasma in the second time, with the second time pregnancy, this antibody can go into rhesus positive fetus, and this antibody will destroy the fetal red cells. When you talk about blood transfusion, there should be a compatible blood. For there are 8 major blood groups with the using of ABO system and RH system. So universal donor mean the universal donor, they can give blood to any person. The universal donor is O negative. O negative person can give blood to any person. And AB positive is the universal recipient. That means AB positive person can take any blood from any person according to the ABOs and RH series system, but there are other minor groups also, so we have to consider those things also. So this is about human blood. Thank you for listening.
If you have subscribed my YouTube channel, subscribe for more biology. This is Biosci YouTube channel, Dr. Sumit. Thank you.